Hello, can you see me? Can you see my presentations, everybody?
Yes, you can continue.
Yeah. So this is a COVID era. So today we will discuss about how to go about this and about a few facts and recommendations. All of you know that this novel coronavirus is a new strain of coronavirus causing COVID-19, and it was first identified in Wuhan city of China. And person-to-person transmission was first documented in December 2019. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, you're audible. Continue.
Very well.
बहुत बढ़िया बहुत बढ़िया बहुत अच्छा
Okay. So all of you know that this virus was first it started from bat, but person-to-person transmission was documented in December 2019, and it was declared as a pandemic by the World Health Organization in March 2020, and India has declared the first diagnosed case on 30th January 2020. So the cases the pandemic was declared. Now, given the propensity of this virus to affect the large number of people, it will be inevitable that we will be caring for significant number of women infected with COVID-19 in pregnancy and for childbirth. However, maternity healthcare providers and facilities need to prepare for the situation with a view to prevent the consequences of the infection on the mother and the newborn. The other aspects that are vital are to prevent the spread of the infection from the infected women to other pregnant women and the public at large. Healthcare providers, we are the healthcare providers. We also need to keep ourselves safe while taking care of the pregnant women. So now I will share with you a few excerpts of FOGSI Good Practice Clinical Guideline Protocol version 2. These guidelines have been made in collaboration with WHO, RCOG, ACOG, and Government of India guideline. I think that will be best suited for our practice. So there are few very important things which I will tell you point-wise. The first thing for the care of a COVID-19 or suspected COVID-19 pregnant women, the first thing is measures to prevent infection. How to prevent infection? Social distancing. Do the 5, wearing a mask. इसको रट जाइए आप लोग. Social distancing, do the 5, wearing a mask. Social distancing could be single most important intervention at population level. Do the 5, what are those 5? Staying at home, hand hygiene, respiratory hygiene, avoiding touching the face, and keeping distance should be practiced. And wearing a mask is always recommended. Now next is precautions for healthcare workers. We have an occupational exposure to COVID-19 infection, and we should know how to protect ourselves. So first thing, distancing where possible. The healthcare workers should maintain distancing and practice hand hygiene. And second is personal protective equipment. एक ऐसा term है personal protective equipment. Every day in the last 2.5 months, you are hearing PPE. So this is to be used according to clinical situation. I will tell you in later slides what are those clinical situations where how PPE is to be used. Covering the hands, face, and eyes is very vital. And there is a proper method to remove PPE. This is a picture of one type of PPE. In local language, we call it hazmat suit. Chemoprophylaxis recommended with hydroxychloroquine for healthcare workers who come in contact with COVID-19 positive patients, and in case of accidental exposure, and their complete protocol should be used. Next is clinical presentation. In a COVID-19 pregnancy. And from the mother, we will take a history of travel abroad, contact, symptoms should be elicited. Most pregnant women will present with flu-like syndrome, and their whole course of disease is similar to adult. Previously, it used to be said that because of low immunity, they will tend to have more effects of this disease, but now it is said that they have a similar risk as with adults. But in comorbidities, they are aggravated as in general population. And mental health issues and domestic violence should also be considered while treating these patients. There is emerging evidence from immunological assessment that transplacental infection might occur, but it has not yet been proved, and the virus has not been isolated in amniotic fluid or vaginal secretions, and neonatal effect seems to be minimal. So, coming to the criteria for testing for COVID-19 pregnancy, the criteria for testing for COVID-19 pregnancies are applicable to the pregnant women, same as to the general population, and it is essentially meant for acute exposure, travel, contact, or healthcare workers. And asymptomatic individuals should be tested on day 5 and then on day 14 of exposure. And the symptomatic individuals are to be tested with reverse transcriptase PCR test and serology. Now, special criteria with regard to pregnant patient: if she is residing in a cluster, a containment area, a large migration gathering, evacuee center from hotspot district. You know that presently we have a major problem of laborers migration. Presenting labor or likely to deliver in next 5 days if she is asymptomatic. As such, there is no recommendation for testing every pregnant woman, mind it. So the test methods and facilities, it is a RT-PCR test, reverse transcriptase polymerase chain reaction, and the sample is most commonly taken from the nasopharyngeal swab. And other symptomatic other investigations which can support in our patient's management are like blood studies, systematic assessment, and if the patient has any lung involvement, then X-ray or CT scan. But since our patient is pregnant, so we should provide her chest or abdominal shield to prevent radiation effects. Now, the arrangements in existing healthcare for COVID and non-COVID facilities, there has to be a comprehensive maternity services available at the COVID hospitals, and COVID positive mothers should be delivered in a separate and dedicated labor room and operation theaters. Like in my hospital, we have an ordinary labor room and for routine patients and an emergency OT for routine patients. But when our hospital was chosen as a COVID facility, then we had identified another place, another labor room and another ANC waiting area in the first stage, and the emergency OT separately in one of the same premises. When somebody goes after donning and comes out after doffing and doing duties, it has to be completely separate basically. In case of an emergency where these facilities are not available, and suppose we have to conduct a delivery, you know, obstetrics never waits for anything. Patient may come in advanced labor like 8 to 9 centimeter. Maybe your facility is not a COVID facility, but you have to deliver the patient, because the government of India has said in its guideline again and again that because of COVID presence or absence, you cannot deny emergency treatment to a woman. So we have to provide. So in that case, the LR and OT should be properly fumigated after the work has been done. Non-COVID hospitals need to make changes such as trials, checklist, and referral pathways. You know that many hospitals like NNJP Hospital, Lady Harding Hospital, and then AIMS, and then Rajiv Gandhi, these have been designated as COVID hospitals. There are so many private hospitals also. Your hospital, your nursing home or place which is not a COVID facility, so your work is only this, that you should know where to refer and how to refer and how to identify how sick the patient is. Now, for this, we should have a proper checklist. A checklist should be used to identify suspect patients. They should be referred for testing, and this may not be a foolproof method, but in absence of rapid testing, it is a useful approach. Termination of pregnancy, you know, nowadays what I've been seeing that patients are being refused medical termination of pregnancy. So termination of pregnancy, sexual and reproductive health care, these are very time-sensitive health care, and their provision is essential during the pandemic for all women. So we cannot deny it. Now, few persons were asking that these patients are maintained their social distancing, not supposed to come to hospital and again, then how will they show? So the government of India and FOXI and also the FIGO have advised few changes in antenatal care. Their visits can be minimized. So I'm coming to that. The visits should be optimized and timed. PPE, distancing, hygiene precautions are to be maintained. Clinical organization is important to reduce transmission risk, and clinic formaldehyde should be disinfected, and at the end of the day, the whole place is disinfected and fumigated. And nowadays, a new terminology has come, telemedicine. So the telemedicine has become now legal, and we can provide telemedicine. and this will prevent a lot of infection transmission. There are a few terminologies which has now come, like quarantine, isolation, telemedicine, PPE. So every day you are hearing these words. Now coming to obstetric ultrasound, due to prolonged examination in close proximity, transmission risk is high in an ultrasound room. So the number of probes should be minimum, and in a hospitalized patient, it is better that we should do a bedside ultrasound, and ultrasound machines and formalin should be disinfected, probes should be washed, dried, and at the end of the day, the room should be fumigated. So assessment of pregnant women who are not in labor. So here we have to recognize if the patient comes. In peripheral areas, we can take help of ASHA workers, that women can contact ASHA worker and tell her about symptoms, and they can make arrangement for a transport. Government of India has again and again said that none of the pregnant patients should be denied any treatment, and that we have to decide with proper context whether that patient needs to come to hospital or can be managed. If the patient is following these three signs like tachypnea more than 30 per minute, hypoxia, SpO2 less than 93%, and imaging showing more than 53% lung involved, then she should be provided a critical level care. This I've already said. Many countries have lifted this hydroxychloroquine, but in India still it is accepted. 200 milligram TDS and azithromycin 500 gram once daily for 10 days have been used successfully and have still been used in the management of COVID-infected patients. And little words about antiretroviral therapy. These medicines which you can see on my screen may be used in high-risk group like immunocompromised disease and uncontrolled diabetes. And other supportive care are raised supplemental oxygen, paracetamol. Plasma therapy is still in research phase and clinical trials. Now, management of labor and delivery with COVID-19 infection. There is no rationale to induce labor. Because of COVID positiveness, we cannot increase the incidence of induction of labor. It is as in normal obstetric practice. And decision regarding the route of delivery, whether cesarean or vaginal delivery, is as per obstetric practice. In Wuhan, lots of cesarean sections were done, but it is not like this. We can plan vaginal delivery. In fact, in our facility, when patient was delivered vaginally, later on she came out to positive and transferred. So coming to the labor analgesia and anesthesia, regional anesthesia and anesthesia can be used in women with COVID-19 infection. And it's better to avoid general anesthesia because the chances of transmission is more, and there are many procedures which are aerosol generating. And so if a patient needs a general anesthesia for any other reason, then the specialized techniques to be used. Regarding newborn care, it should be practiced as per normal practice. At present, testing is recommended if the mother is COVID-19 and baby is asymptomatic, and breastfeeding should be encouraged, and hygienic practices must be encouraged. And it is like a normal pregnancy, normal preparation. There is nothing special in COVID, especially only those wearing mask and hygiene practices. Cleaning maintenance of facilities and of medical equipment should be done with adequate PPE to be given to the healthcare worker, and 1% sodium hydrochloride solution with contact time of 30 minutes can be used. Postnatal care and advice to the mother should follow routine practice. If the woman is isolated from the neonate, then she should be offered psychological support and assessment. And diet for the pregnant women should be as per routine. There are no special diets. Rumors related to diet should be dispelled, and the nutritious diet helps to build immunity. Now, this is a very important part and not to be neglected. Training and managing the healthcare facility. You all know that many healthcare workers are also being quarantined on the note of being exposed to a COVID positive patient or themselves coming COVID positive. तो जब तक आप लोग अगली जो टीम है उसका ट्रेन नहीं करोगे, unless you train the next team, then how will you run your hospitals or your healthcare facilities? So this point should not be neglected, and training and management of the healthcare workers is a very important part. It is essential to prevent them from getting infected, and training should include donning and doffing. These are again two new terminologies which every day we are reciting. and duty allocation and duration of hours. Because once somebody is doing full-time duty, they will go to washroom, have their meal, and then they will do continuous 6 hours duty after donning. So duty allocation is very important. Sometimes it may so happen that the people, that the healthcare workers are exposed to COVID positive patient, but they are asymptomatic. Then they will continuously do duty for 15 days, like 15 days off, 15 days off, on, and we have to keep their model. Now, my SRs and PGs, they are doing duties, and many of them are coming positive. Every day we give them a message: oh, we love you, we care for you. If you have any problem, then please let us know. So this is how we boost people's morale. So measures for pregnant women to prevent COVID-19 infection. The greatest tool to prevent COVID-19 infection in the general population is same as for pregnant women, and that is again social distancing. They are a special category in terms of healthcare, and they should therefore follow these guidelines very fastidiously and do the 5. This is a slide of showing do the 5. You just go through this. I'm not reading it. Basically something on home. I've already told you: hand hygiene, washing for 20 seconds, then elbow, face like touching face, eye, nose, mouth with hands and space, keeping a distance of 1 meter. Shall I move to the next slide? The ideal mask is FFP mask. Yes, the ideal mask is FFP mask, but this is not available anywhere. So the practical solution is FF2 mask, which is our N95 mask. And the 3 principles that the healthcare worker should know, that is distancing, use of appropriate PPE correctly, and chemoprophylaxis. It is prudent to remove non-essential items. Suppose you are doing practice in your clinic, then you remove all non-essential items from your consulting room to facilitate cleaning and disinfection and reduce the number of fomites related spread. And regular hand cleaning with soap and water and alcohol for 20 seconds. Then a few details about personal protective equipment. In the settings where the pregnant woman is confirmed to be COVID-19 infection and presence in labor room and is undergoing a procedure, there is a need to follow these measures of personal protective equipment, because it is acquired through respiratory droplets. Now, this is a very important slide. There are 3 levels of personal protective equipment. Everywhere, like in OPD, you will wear different type of PPE. In your ward, you will wear different type of PPE, and in your operation theater, you will wear different type of PPE. So level 1 protection is this, where you will wear surgical cap, mask, uniform, disposable latex gloves, and isolation clothing. And you read the place where you have to use this. And level 2, medical protective mask and N95 mask is added, goggles added, and these are for these conditions, these situations. Now level 3, disposable surgical cap, medical protective mask, work uniform, disposable medical protective uniform, latex gloves, full face respiratory protective devices, and powdered air purifying respirator. This is for these situations. You can read it nicely. I'll move to the next slide after a pause. So the procedure of wearing, donning, and doffing, there are lots of confusions about this. So I'll just elaborating. Excuse me. So you see, first here, normal dress is put, then hand washing, then put on disposable surgical cap, then N95 mask, then disposable latex gloves, then put on goggles and protective shield, and then put on disposable latex gloves again. And here it's complete. Is everything fine? So the next slide.
Yes, you can continue, ma'am. You are quite audible and visible. No problem.
It's a shortcut.
Because there is a confusion regarding wearing 2 gloves.
Yeah, I will show you a video also.
Yes.
Yeah. So again, I'm revising the steps. Put on special work clothes and work shoes. Wash hands. Put on disposable surgical cap and 95 mask. Inner disposable gloves, goggles and protective clothing. Special disposable isolation gown. Face shield and outer disposable gloves. Next. Now coming to doffing. Doffing is more important than donning. Both are important, but people make more mistakes in doffing. Because when you are doing donning, you don't yourself have any infection. But when you are doffing, then you need to prevent yourself also from getting corona infection. So the main steps of doffing are: replace outer gloves with new ones. Remove protective clothing with outer gloves. Remove goggles. Remove mask. Remove cap. And remove inner disposable latex gloves. I'll show you a video later on. Now, clinical presentation and effects of COVID-19 on mother. The mean incubation period is 5 to 7 days. It may be latest by 11 days. At present, it appears that pregnant women do not have worse outcomes or consequences of infection. Hello? Am I not audible?
Madam, you are audible.
Yes,
You are
quite audible.
So
Please
You are quite audible, madam. Please continue with your presentation.
yes. Okay.
I request other participant to go on mute, please.
Okay.
Only
Most
Dr.
pregnant
Shashi
women
Prabhakar, ma'am, will
like symptoms of cough, sore throat and fever. Few may have difficulty in breathing and shortness of breath. Hello. These have been classified as features of severe acute respiratory illness or SARI by WHO. Pregnant women has comorbid conditions like diabetes, hypertension, obesity, respiratory disease, or is of advanced age. They are likely to have a severe respiratory disease. Pregnant women with associated medical risk factors may present pneumonia and non-hypoxia, may progress with this age. Immunocompromised pregnant women may present with atypical features such as fatigue, malaise, body ache, and gastrointestinal symptoms like nausea and vomiting. Next.
Dr. Meena Hari, ma'am, please mute your phone. Dr. Meena Hari.
Effects of COVID-19
Dr. Meena Hari, ma'am, please go on the mute, ma'am. Dr. Meena.
COVID-19 infected women at present, there is no evidence of any fetal effects of the infection in terms of fetal abnormalities, other fetal parameters of growth, amniotic fluid, and an ultrasound 14 days after the infection is considered for the pregnant woman who has recovered from infection. No evidence of high risk of abortion at present. No evidence of high risk of preterm labor with COVID-19 infection. However, as with systemic disease, which can compromise maternal health, there is a possibility that preterm labor may occur in these conditions. Next. Yeah. So the criteria are for testing, they are same as for general population, like all symptomatic individuals who have undertaken international travel in last 14 days, all symptomatic contacts of laboratory confirmed cases, all symptomatic healthcare workers. SARI, I have already said, patients who have severe illness which requires hospitalization. Asymptomatic direct and high risk contact of a confirmed case should be tested once between day 5 and day 14 of coming in contact. ILI means abbreviation of influenza-like illness, fever, cough, and sore throat and running nose. They are also to be tested within 7 days of illness. The term symptomatic is interpreted as symptoms of acute respiratory illness, fever with respiratory symptom, cough, congestion, sore throat, and shortness of breath. All COVID-19 cases to be notified to the government, it is mandatory. What is isolation? It refers to the separation and restriction of movement of ill patients who have contagious disease in order to prevent its transmission to others. It typically occurs in a hospital setting or a special facility, and at present in India, all symptomatic patients who have a positive test for COVID-19 are being isolated. This is the algorithm. We don't have to go into details. The first is suspect cases directly reporting to the COVID dedicated facility, and second is at fever clinic. See, you are not working in a COVID dedicated facility, so you will just go through these mild and very mild. You have to find out moderate or severe. This I have already described. So the mild will go to COVID care center, the moderate will go to dedicated COVID health center, and the severe one to ICU facility. Now, what is important for you is, next slide. You have to subject all of them to the COVID test. If negative, discharge. If positive, then shift to COVID care center. These two things, it matters. And the positives will all go to dedicated center. Next. No, we should maintain a checklist. So what is the checklist? You ask about fever. You know, sometimes my residents do not ask about all the details and they admit a suspected COVID, which later on have come out to be positive. So it's better that you keep a checklist so that you do not miss anything. Like, do you have features of respiratory disease, running nose, already altered smell sensation, parosmia or anosmia, blocked nose, cough, sore throat, difficulty in breathing or feeling breathless? Do you have a travel abroad, interstate in 14 days, or have you traveled from anywhere outside your locality in last 14 days? If yes, was this area a hotspot? Next. Do you have household or close direct contact with person who meets above 2 criteria? Do you have household or close direct contact with the person who is confirmed to have COVID-19 infection and who is suspected and undergoing testing? Do you reside in a hotspot or containment or cluster area? Or you have any healthcare provider who has been in work in the last 14 days? Or have you been hospitalized in the last 14 days for some other reason? So organization of facilities in non-COVID maternity hospital and private sector is required to reduce transmission risk. Now, how we, in our non-COVID facility, how we'll design a triage area. Triage में आप सबको पता होगा कि आपको कैसे उस मरीज को channelize करना है, how to channelize that patient. As far as possible, patients and their relatives should be triaged remotely by telemedicine. If not possible, should be in a segregated area of the hospital premises which is used for triage. This area could be at the entry gate of the building in which the hospital is located. It should be staffed by paramedical personnel. Triage may include use of checklist tool, remote temperature screening, and finger oxygen pulse oximeter if available. It's a very handy instrument, pulse oximeter, and very useful in this era. The triage criteria should be applied to the attendant with the patient. If there is suspicion of infection on checklist and the patient is stable, he should be immediately given an N95 mask and referred to a fever clinic or COVID hospital. In my wards, we are providing routine masks to each and every patient. And if some patient has not brought the mask, then the hospital is providing them. If there is suspicion, but in an emergency, the patient should be given basic care with wearing full PPE and then referred to a COVID hospital. This line is very important for everybody, all who are doing government practice in non-COVID hospital and those who are also in private practice. If it is an emergency, if you need to deliver the patient, if you need to handle a highly bleeding patient, any emergency, then you have to do this. Wear full PPE and treat the patient. If there is no suspicion, patient stable, then care can proceed as usual. Now, creation of isolation area, patient who are suspected or confirmed cases admitted into the hospital premises for emergency or basic care before referral will need to be kept in an isolated area. The area should be near the entry gate, I have already told you, and it should be a room with an attached bathroom to minimize movement and allow hygiene to be maintained. The staff entering this area should compulsorily use appropriate PPE, and after the patient leaves the premises, the isolation area should be fumigated, disinfected with 1% sodium hypochlorite. All of you should know how to prepare sodium hypochlorite. Freshly prepared, it is used. In case the labor ward or operation theatre has been used, it should be fumigated. Another patient should not be taken for labor care or surgery in these areas until 1 hour after fumigation. Like ours is a very busy labor room and busy OT, so in that case we require this, and after 1 hour we use. The staff has had an exposure should be counseled, managed and quarantined as per the flowchart mentioned earlier. There are few administrative aspects and we really need an administrative will to maintain all this. Only one attendant should accompany the women and the same person should stay with her for the duration of the admission. Visitors should be prohibited at entering. This minimizes the traffic to the hospital. Now, this is very important, but many gynecologists and obstetricians are keen to learn that when the antenatal care is optimized, then how much and what to do and when to do during these 9 months. So I've added a few slides for that also. As per FOXI guideline and as per AIIMS guideline, AIIMS Delhi. So minimum 4 ANC visits are to be done in this era at 12 weeks, 20 weeks, please listen to it carefully, 12 weeks, 20 weeks, 28 weeks, and 36 weeks. And any extra visit may be done at the discretion of the care provider if it is required. And follow physical distancing norms at health facilities. Next. So just read it carefully. In the first visit, that is at 12 weeks, we are confirming the gestational age and EDD. Screening of high-risk pregnancy can be done at this time. Baseline investigations are to be done. All of you know what are the ANC baseline investigations: CPC, LFT, KFT, everything, blood sugar, blood group, urine, and thyroid, all those. The initiation of iron folic acid supplementation can be started at this time. Education of mother on pregnancy and childbirth and on the possibility of having and about the risk of having COVID. Then in the second visit, which is preferably to be done at 20 weeks, assess fungal height and measure BP. Antenatal ultrasound is done at this stage to rule out malformations. You know that anatomical survey of ultrasound is to be done at 18 to 20 weeks. If somebody is asked to do only one ultrasound during ANC period, then this is the time when one ultrasound is to be done. And if we have the facility, we can do one ultrasound at 12 weeks also. Here you, at second visit, you ensure immunization with tetanus toxoid and ensure iron and calcium intake. Then third visit at 28 weeks, assess fetal growth, BP monitoring, rule out GDM, which to be ruled out earlier also in our first trimester. If Rh negative, consider giving anti-D gamma globulin. Educate patient regarding self-monitoring, fetal movement count, blood pressure and blood sugar, and counsel for warning signs like leaking PV, bleeding PV, and labor pains. And last but not the least is this fourth visit. This is before any further visit, when the patient goes into labor, assessment of fetal growth and presentation. You assess for pelvic adequacy at this time, instruct about warning signs, watch for complications, and work out birth plan. How to be delivered, when to be delivered, all those, and delivery and newborn care. Next. So this is protocol, screening, identification of suspects, management. All these 3 points we have discussed, and referral in cases I have already discussed. If the patient comes positive, you send to COVID dedicated facility. So coming a few words about management of such patients in labor. If you happen to treat this patient during labor in emergencies, delivery suite designated for those cases with all isolation facilities with well equipped to monitor and care. This should not be a part of the running labor room and delivery complex. It should always be a separate place. You have to identify the separate place in your hospital. Minimize the number of persons in the room. Healthcare team to be in PP, but companion to be in PP. Routine monitoring of protocol for high-risk pregnancy, 2 hourly vitals, intake output charting, fetal monitoring as per protocol, minimize interventions if they can be avoided, Antonox use only with a single-use filter, water birth is contraindicated, cut short the second stage if she is getting exhausted, mode of delivery cesarean is reserved only for those with obstetric indications, and CS to be considered if she has severe disease. Otherwise, it is an obstetric indication, but if she has severe disease, severe lung compromise, then for that indication, CS can be considered. Regarding delayed cord clamping, there are 2 views, which I will tell you, and vertical transmission has not yet been proven. Next. There is a controversy about the timing of cord clamping. ACOG recommends early, whereas RCOG recommends delayed cord clamping. Next. Now, surgical procedure, if we require to do, then the OT must be designated. If you do not have any separate extra place for a designated OT, then you do that procedure in your own OT, but later on you fumigate it. So minimize the number of persons in the OT room, healthcare team to be in PPE, plan ahead and minimize the movement of team in and out of the OT during the procedure. Once somebody enters after donning, he leaves only after doffing. Next. And all communication are done through phones. Anesthesia regional is preferred if general anesthesia is needed for any reason that ensure negative pressure in OT through the procedure at extubation. And in our Indian facilities, most of the places do not have negative pressures in OT anyway. Never mind. You prevent other methods. You take advantage of other methods of preventing infections. Antibiotic prophylaxis is recommended. Crash cesarean section may have a delay as the team needs time to put on PP and prepare the entire team. Post-op care as per standards, isolation room principles, barrier nursing with universal standard precautions. We keep the patient in antenatal, before labor in first and second case in the same place, and in the same place there is a delivery place, and at the same place there is an OT, and in the same place there is a PLC, so that that patient and that infection never goes out. So a few words about breastfeeding. Breastfeeding is encouraged, and these are a few points. If mother is asymptomatic and displays few symptoms and rooming in and direct breastfeeding, but the mother will wash her hands every time, her nipple also, and she will maintain hand hygiene, and she will always wear a mask. If mother has fever, cough, dyspnea, anything, then separation may be allowed. But as such, for all practical purposes in your facility, breastfeeding is allowed with all health hygiene and mask on mother's face. Hand washing prior to handling infant, mask during breastfeeding, 6 feet distance when not feeding, and suspend visitors. And one more important thing, in a delivery place, where patient is being delivered, the newborn care place is 2 meters away from the main nurse delivery table. A few words on infection control practices. Different types of bins are to be labeled like grade 1, 2, 3, and these are the things which are to be disposed of, like goggles, N95 mask in bin 2 and disposable PPEs in bin 3. They can be labeled here 1, 2, 3 like this, and this is how they are disinfected. Now, disinfection is an important part of biological waste management. Next. Now, suppose a suspected COVID or COVID patient has come to your premises, and if you want to transfer, there are some methods of transfer also. Prepare transport equipment and drugs in anticipation of medical emergencies that may occur en route, such as sudden cardiovascular collapse or hypertension. All transport staff should be mask fitted for N95 respirators where available. All surgical masks as a secondary option. All transport staff to don PPE prior to transport. Put on surgical mask for patients during transport if not done on facility admission. If a bag-belt mask is required during transport, provide only gently bagging to reduce aerosolization in the event of worsening hypoxia. Avoid unnecessary breathing circuit disconnection during transport. In the coming days, when the number of COVID patients are increasing, doubling, tripling, you may have to face these situations more often. So be prepared for these things. Transport vehicle to be cleaned and disinfected internally by cleaning or transport staff in PP prior to transfer from your place to that facility where it is to be transferred. On arrival at that facility, transport staff to remove PP and dispose. When they come back, then they will remove PP and dispose as directed by facility protocol and wash hands. That's the last slide. Transport vehicle to be cleaned. Transport staff to don new PP prior to return journey in the same ambulance. Next. Staff to remove PP in nearest clinical area, for example, ambulance bay, upon arrival back at workplace and wash hands. Equipment used during transportation to be cleaned and sterilized after transport as per facility protocol, and transport vehicle to be cleaned upon arrival when back at transport depot. So if you give me time, this is an 8-minute video. Shall I show you on donning and doffing? Hello?
Yes, please do show.
Yes. This is devised by AIMS Rishikesh. I searched many videos. This is the best video, and we are following this. If you can't hear the sound because the volume is very less, you just watch it. Just look at the PPEs which are being used. This is a 20 seconds procedure, hand rubbing. ये पूरा ओवरऑल इसको हम लोग लोकल लैंग्वेज में हैजमेट सूट भी कहते हैं. ये बहुत इम्पोर्टेंट है. छोटी स्क्रीन देखो तो बड़ी स्क्रीन देखने के लिए क्या करना पड़ता है? क्यों शुरू ये तो क्या हो रहा है? ये कैसे चलेगा? ये काम उसने भी सही है. Please watch out how to remove face mask. Next slide. So have you all seen this video? Hello?
Yes.
Hello? Yes.
Ah,
So
yes,
you please
doctor.
follow, yes. So please follow this method for donning and doffing. So now
Yes.
coming to my last slide, the FIGO statement on 30th March 2020. FIGO is the World Organization Federation, and on safe motherhood and COVID-19, they say that as obstetricians, it is of utmost importance to stay up to date as the situation with COVID-19 rapidly unfolds, and it is unfolding. This includes updates about local transmission in the area of our practice, as we have obligations towards our patients who deserve no less than our full commitment during these challenging times. Do you all agree with me?
Definitely, doctor.
Yes.
Definitely.
Yes, yes.
Yes, please. So thank you. This is my own picture. I have been. This is my picture. These masks I use in my OPD. This PPE. And thank you, Dr. Dipti, Dr. Jyoti Bhaskar, for inviting me for this lecture.
Thank you, doctor. As usual, a wonderful presentation and everything from A to Z of what we need to know about the antenatal visits, and every visit, what all is mandatory is to be done so that we don't miss out any important point. Then
Yes.
once she is with us in the labor room, in the OT area, the donning, care of cells and care of our staff, and how